Okay.
So we're here together with Melanie Nunes with the workshop. Many thanks for that. She's the Belgian 2009 barista champion.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I have one important question for me. You know I like roasting my own beans. What do you think is the best recipe for beans you just roasted? Is there...
The best recipe, well, first of all, when you have roasted the coffee, I would let it rest, preferably 5 to 7 days.
But if you're not resting it, you want to
not
enjoy
resting it, okay. Then I would choose for filter coffee and not espresso, because it will be difficult to just grind it for espresso, because there's still degassing going on. So with filter coffee, it's not that an issue, but you will still have the degassing, but it will have less influence in your brewing time.
Okay, and any specific filter method?
Well, I like V60 or Chemex. Chemex is also one of my favorites, but I would say Kalita will also do the job. And if you're lazy, a lemon dripper also works.
Super. Many thanks and good luck in Panama.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope to see you there in Panama.
Okay, if you need coffee from Panama, this will be your person.
Okay.
Coffee Stories in Bruges. I thought they only sold chocolates. Beer and chocolates. Beer, chocolates and lace. Hello and welcome again to an episode of Coffee Stories in Bruges. Here we were very fortunate being able to attend a workshop by Belgian barista champion of 2009, Melanie Nunes. First she gave an introduction to the world of coffee, explaining the difference between single origins and a coffee blend. Single origins being much more pronounced in taste, which might then be kind of too strong of a taste profile for certain coffee lovers. So actually the blends or the roasters tend to have a blend that is more agreeable to a larger section of the population. So in the workshop we were actually able to taste and two single origins and then also one blend. This workshop was completely free, which was also totally amazing. So here we see Melanie adding water to her Hario recipe. At this point it's the blooming phase that she explaining that we'll leave it to rest for 36. So at this point 65 grams of water have been added. The next phase comes at 30 seconds, where we're adding up to 150 grams of water. Then at 50 seconds, so just 20 seconds later, we're already going for a total of 250. Each time that she's adding the water, you can see her swirling movement going from the inside to the outside, just to be sure that the whole coffee bed gets a bit of motion, let's say, as the water is being added. Then around 1 minute and 10 seconds, we're approaching 350 grams or milliliters of water, which is already very close to the final volume that we're aiming for with this recipe, which is 380 grams of water in total at 1 minute and 30 seconds. So here you see Melanie adding the last bits of water. Now the entire recipe should be just 3 minutes in total. And she's explaining that often people, they will prepare their coffee, let it go through the drip, and then they just leave that standing there, which is not ideal, because the reason why you want to really just take it out is that the final, let's say, water going through the coffee bed will be taking the most bitter flavors. So if you look at it that way, it's just really a pity that you would have followed the recipe to the letter and then you kind of allow it to be ruined. It might still be quite enjoyable, let's say, if it's just a few drops, but in general you want to avoid the bitter flavors in coffee as much as possible. So then you remove it, you set it aside. You might still want to leave the coffee to cool down, but that's about it. The workshop was also very nice for me as I was able to use the barista Hario encore for the first time, as I was looking on the lookout for a grinder. I did look into it, but as this is really more a filter grinder rather than an espresso grinder, I never really considered it, although it is a very popular grinder for the filter people, of course. So it at least, you know, seeing it in action was quite enjoyable for me. I don't remember how much grams we were actually using for this recipe. I think it must have been around 22 grams of coffee, not just from the look of it, but as I looked into the recipes out there on the internet, I find it very similar to the one Scott Rayo strongly recommends, which is 202 grams for 306 grams of water. So in our case that was 380. This was really a great workshop. See all the happy people. Thanks a million, Melanie Nunes.